What is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here, and welcome to the Nebula Music Podcast. This is a weekly series where I bring on some of music industry's best musicians, best bands, best artists, and really dive into their thought process, getting to know who they are and understanding what keeps them motivated and how they got to where they're at. And I'm very excited because over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a collaboration with Rude Records. Rude Records, it's a very cool label that has a lot of great artists on their roster. And it's my pleasure to sit down and talk to some of them and understand their thought process. So first up, we have Tate Logan of the band Happy. He's a very cool dude, very inspirational. And I'm excited to share this conversation with you guys because I felt very refreshed after the conversation. Now, at the end of the conversation, if you enjoyed the interview, definitely consider subscribing because I have other artists from Root Records coming on the show as well. But also, I do this every week. I bring on amazing people that are just killing it at their game. And honestly, that's what we're all here for. We're all here to learn. We're all here to get inspired. We're all here to hopefully learn something new that will help us continue doing our thing so that one day we could all be at the top of our game as well. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. What is up, everybody? I'm really excited today because I have someone that I actually am really excited to interview today. I have Tate Logan from the band called Happy on the show joining me today. How's it going, man?
Dude, it is great. Thank you so much for having me. It is such a pleasure to talk to you.
No, man, thank you so much for being on the show. You know, we were talking a little bit earlier before the actual interview started, and I just loved how you were letting me know that you were just down to just be honest and talk about your life, because that's really what we're all here for. You know, as musicians and creative people, we're always, you know, working on stuff, or we're constantly nonstop doing cool things, but sometimes it's important to kind of take a step back and understand the mindset of behind the artist, basically, and I'm excited to do that with you today, Tate. But I know a lot of my fans aren't here to listen to me. I know they're here to listen to you. I don't want to waste too much time in just rambling on about you. I would much rather you talk about yourself, Tate. So, Tate, man, why don't you go ahead and, well, I mean, it's all about you, man. It's about you here today. And so I just want to, you know, maybe start off with a little bit about your backstory. Maybe let us know what you've been up to, what the band's been up to, and then we'll kind of sort of go from there.
All right. So I sing and play guitar in a band called Happy. We're a pretty new band. We started in around 2016. Nice. And let's see, we started in late 2016, around November. I'd been in a lot of different projects. I've been playing drums and guitar since I was in elementary, middle school, and I'd always actually been a drummer in a band and was kind of taking back seat and writing a lot of songs and, you know, working that way, and it was really cool. And then started writing a lot of my own music and was like, you know what, I'm going to try to do this and be in the front, maybe, like, see how that goes. And so I wrote some songs, and I ended up like recruiting some people to help me out, like in the studio, because if you don't know anything about the studio, it's if you have more people to track things, it goes a lot faster and it's a lot cheaper. Oh, yeah. So back in 2016, I got some of my friends together and I was like, y'all, do you want to help me, you know, track this? So I found the best guitar player I could find, the best drummer I could find, like out of these really cool guys that I knew. And it ended up being like incredible chemistry. Like we immediately just clicked, and like they got the vision so well, and it was like, wow, I want to be with these guys all the time. Like they had so much insight and so much, you know, like I just had these skeletons of these songs, and these guys came in, and you know, we all have very different influences, and I think that it works really well because, you know, when I take a song to them, they're like, you know, here's all my ideas, and I was really excited to hear their ideas, and I don't want to ramble too much about that, but we ended up just like being this really great group of 4 guys. And so, you know, fast forward, tracked an EP, been up, you know, playing music. But honestly, for me, I'm sure you'll ask me more about that in a little while, so I don't want to ramble too much about that. But I also go to school. I'm actually graduating on Saturday. And
nice. Congrats, man.
Thank you. From the University of South Carolina, I have a major in broadcast journalism and a minor in entertainment management. So that's honestly what I have definitely been up to, is that in the last little while.
Wow.
And to walk across the stage. Yeah, for sure.
You got a brainiac here, man. Damn.
Well, I just really like to understand like the behind the scenes of the industry that I'm like striving to be in, because I think that, you know, the backgrounds and like the people that we work with, and like the publicists and the team and the booking agents and even like the sound guys and the light guys, and just like all of that is such a machine that a lot of people don't appreciate enough. And I was like, I really want to understand what's going into, not just the performance aspect of it. And so I really enjoyed like, learning all of the other parts to that, I guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's cool. I'm curious, why did you choose broadcasting? I mean, it obviously resonates with what we're doing here. And you know what? Most people that I've brought on the show that I've met throughout my career too, playing drums and playing music, I've met plenty of people that go to school to study different things and in the music industry. And I rarely ever hear broadcasting. So I'm just curious why.
Well,
I know.
no,
it would make
funny.
sense, right? It makes sense because it's a huge part of this industry, but I don't normally hear that. So I'm curious.
Well, so when I was in high school, I worked at a radio station. I was an intern in Hilton Head at a radio station that was like beach soul and rock and roll. Not really the music I was into, but I was just stoked to be in the environment. And like, I started as an intern, like just sitting in my pajamas in the room 6 hours a day, loading songs into a dock. And then I met with the owner of the station and we started talking. And by the end of my high school career, I had a show at night and I interviewed a lot of people. I talked to Candace Glover from when she won American Idol one time. She was from Buford, so that was pretty cool.
Wow.
And I just kind of found I was like, wow, I really like to talk about bands and to like dissect it and to like, preach it almost, like listen to all this awesome music that I also love. And so when I got to school, I was like, all of these people around me are going for sports broadcasts, which makes sense because I'm from the South and like football is huge here, but there was a select few that were doing music, but I was like, I need to make this a little bit more like specific because I didn't know if I wanted to do radio or like TV or whatever, but just like some sort of, so that's why I made my minor entertainment management. And then I have like a cognet in music and music theory and stuff. So I stay pretty damn busy, dude. I'm not going to lie, but I really love it. And I can't stop loving music and like every single solitary piece of it. So I lose my mind in the process. I don't sleep very much, but it's fun, I guess.
No, I mean, trust me. I mean, I do this. I love talking. I know I can tell right off the back that we're going to have a really good conversation because it's always good, especially when you're interviewing people, it's good to talk to someone else that like likes to talk. Because they just kind of go back and forth. It's the worst to sit there, just be like, so how's your day? And then someone's like, good. And you're like, all right, well, let's figure out what else we can say here. But, beyond the point. Okay. So you're studying broadcasting and I find it interesting because, in our industry, surprisingly enough, creative people that I've encountered, and I'm from California. For those of you guys that do not know, or maybe even, want to know a little bit more, like I'm from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. And when
that's a hell of a lot cooler.
What was that? Okay, a lot cooler. Well, I mean, not temperaturely wise, but it's definitely the place to be if you want to be, doing more like the pop scene. But beyond the point, one of the things that I've noticed growing up here a lot is when you are in the music world, it's very hard or rare. Now, I want to say rare, not hard, but rare to find people that kind of do a lot of things. And it's surprising to me, at least, because as musicians, we're creative people. And so we're kind of used to doing a lot of things, but it's very easy to get very much like focused on just like you, for example, just playing guitar or just playing drums or just being in a band, which is fine.
Right.
I think a lot of careers are made that way and it's totally fine. Like it works, but it's very rare to find someone who's like looking to expand and explore different areas from a very young age. So what I'm curious and
for sure,
well, I guess what I'm curious about and what I'm like trying to understand how you balance your time, because you want to do broadcasting. You also are interested in management and understanding the industry as a whole, which is the right way to do it, in my opinion. I think you're going to be very knowledgeable. How are you balancing your time between actually like performing and going out with your band, Happy, and then also focusing on your school? Because I'm sure there are lots of kids that are probably in that same exact situation that you are, where they're studying and also trying to go on tour or do something with their music, if that makes sense. So I'm just curious.
Of course. Well, it's really interesting. I'm going to just say really quick that like when early on in my music career, I was very, very lucky to, we've worked with Will Pugh from Cartel and like and a lot of other people that I have seen where the whole time, or a lot of my friends where they mix when they're on the road or they master or they book for other bands. And it's like, a lot of people have different ways that they play in multiple different bands and have lots of different projects that they work on. And I think that a lot of times that at least the people that I have had the pleasure of working with and knowing have ways that they work in the industry on top of being in a band, whether it's playing guitar in another band or, everything I just said. And I think that I just happen to have like the interest in the like, broadcast side of it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as far as like, because I went to the studio and I watched Will, and Will was just so incredible and so knowledgeable about all of this. And I was like, how do you know how to do this? You were playing guitar in a band and it was very successful. Like, how did you have the time? And he was like, in all of my downtime, I spent watching these producers and watching these people do it. And I was like, it was just very inspiring to me to like think, we have all of this going on and we should pay attention and learn from the people that have these skills around us.
Yeah.
But as far as balancing my time, I was really lucky, like with studying broadcast journalism and then having my minor be entertainment management. So I was taking a lot of classes that were like concert promotion and venue management and stuff like that. Well, I book a lot of DIY house shows here in Columbia. Like we have people come through and, they'll crash at our house, play a set. We have local bands open for them, cook them breakfast, let them wash their clothes, and then they leave.
Nice.
And we've been doing that for a couple of years. And so what's really cool about my schoolwork and my academics is that like they want us to like hypothetically do all of these things on the outside. I guess what I'm trying to say is instead of like if I was trying to be a physical therapist, I'd want to go try to get an internship at a doctor's office perhaps. Yeah. And like, it's really cool with my major and like for broadcast journalism, I could go around for my projects and interview the bands that were coming through on tours. And so I was able to apply my outside passion to my academic and get a grade for it. So I could go to the show I was going to go to probably anyway, and then get to film it and interview them and then submit it for the project. So like, because I was really lucky to be smart enough at 17 to think maybe this is what I want to do, and I'm lucky that I still do want to do it because it worked out really well between the two passions. I hope I answered your question well.
No, I think it's perfect. And you know what? I think what you said at the beginning of your answer, it's it was perfect because everyone does do it a different way. And that's, I think, something I try my best to nail in every interview that I have. My main purpose is to really figure out how you do your thing and why it works for you. But it's important to also note that what works for you won't necessarily work for someone else. I mean, maybe you, someone who's listening, maybe one of your fans, someone who really likes Happy, maybe they really need to be just focused on one thing, which is absolutely fine. Like there's so many people that need that. You know what I mean? But I find it fascinating how someone like you can balance in retrospect, obviously both being in a band and broadcasting is in the same industry, but they're also two completely different things, if that makes sense.
I think that, I went to school in the beginning, and music was like, I think I went a lot for my parents, it's like, all right, I'm going to get the degree.
We all did.
Exactly. But like just my love for like actually playing the shows and being Happy and doing what we've been doing. It was like, in any downtime that, I'll be honest, like I don't go out a lot. I don't do a lot of like things and like events, like activities that like normal people do because I spend all of my time with my band and because that's just where I find the most joy. So in all of my downtime, I was spending it trying to grow this band that we were doing because that was what I truly wanted to do. And I was just having to get the degree, you know what I mean? But I'm very lucky that it worked out that way. And I think that, that I'll have good knowledge, hopefully. But you know what? I'll never be able to know everything. And every single day I meet new people that teach me something different. And like just what you were saying about, fans that have different interests, like I said, when I was sitting there with Will in the studio, I was like, this is so cool, but this is so not for me. Like I have no interest in pursuing recording or mastering because I think it's an incredible art that I just completely don't understand. But someone else might be playing in a band and think, wow, like maybe I want to learn how to track this. And it's as simple as just, you don't have to feel the pressure of like, I have to be the best at this right now, because even people that are the best at it have people that taught them those things. You know what I mean? So like it's definitely, don't get discouraged. Like every time that, you mess up, you should just take that as like a learning experience and to reach out to people and ask them how they can help you and ask them how they can, teach you new things. And then one day somebody will be like, hey, this is really, really good.
Yeah.
So
that's how it happens. And you know what?
I'm a firm believer in just like working hard and taking failures as a lesson instead of a setback.
I am so happy you said that because I was actually going to ask something very similar to that. On that same topic, is this a way that you've always like thought about music? And by that I mean it's very clear to me that you're very knowledgeable already. You know, I'm not. How old are you? You're like 22, right, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm 22.
Okay, no, I got it right on the.
I am
right
a child.
I did not ask before, guys. I just guessed. I just assumed,
awesome.
which can be a good or bad thing depending on what you're talking about. Anyways, point being is, it seems that you're very wise and you understand exactly where you want to be and what you want to do. But even I mean, I'm still in my 20s. There are still times where even I get a little unsure of, am I going the right direction? Should I take this gig? Should I tour with that band? Should I do this specific thing? Even when I first started doing this podcast, I definitely had, you know, questions. I'm like, I'm a drummer. Should I even be doing this podcast? So what I'm curious about, were you always this sort of like able to sort of decide and be able to decipher when you had a passion and just go after it? Or was that something that you sort of grew into as you sort of grew up after high school, after doing that internship? That's just something that you sort of learned?
I think, well, I mean, I still wake up every day and I'm like, is this what I should be doing right now? You know? So I don't think like if like everybody feels unsure, I think about, especially going into an industry, anything around art, I think, you know, even I have friends that are in film school and friends that are actors and you know, like we're all taking a really big risk here, you know, with the trying to,
well said,
and so I don't think
big
that
risk. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, there is no right or wrong answer. There's no formula. I think that everyone that I know that's ever been able to make a successful career like with their art has done it a different way, whichever way that works for them. So, you know, I wake up and I'm like, all right, you know, I've watched all the people around me do it, how they did it, but like which is the best way and which way am I going to do it? You know, and that's a question that you'll never be able to have answered. So I think that I've always, since I was a little kid, really loved music. You know, I mean, like every musician says that, but it's true.
It is true.
I love music, man. But you know, when I was really little, my parents, they were always really into music. They had records. My mother's father, my grandfather, played in a band and toured around. They were called Hooker in the 60s.
Wow.
And so he taught me to play guitar. He plays piano when I was very small. And my parents always just had records in the house. We were always listening to like the Wallflowers. And I don't know if you're familiar with, they're from the 90s. It's Bob Dylan's son, Jacob Dylan, sings in the Wallflowers.
I'm not familiar, but that sounds cool though.
You should check them out. It's like indie rock. It's very cool. I don't know if they put out a record anytime soon, but like when I was growing up, they would play like that kind of stuff in the house, or like Marcy Playground, Sex and Candy, and like, you know, just my mom really liked the Dixie Chicks. I'm going to say that because if I leave that out and she listens to this, she will be like, you didn't say that I listened to the Dixie Chicks. But so anyway, just growing up, I had family that was very passionate about music, and it was always like I never, you know, was in my house without music playing to some degree, whether if it was from a record player or a CD or the TV or something, there was always music in our house. And so, and my parents always really supported it. It was kind of like, if this is the hobby that you want to do, like, we're not going to make you do something that, you know, like I tried soccer and I tried baseball and I tried all that stuff. And like, I really just wanted to play in bands, and I've played in screamo bands and I've played in pop bands and I've played in terrible cover bands. And like, I could never get it to go away, like the constant like yearning in my gut to just be working with other people and making music to some degree. And I think that just going to school and being around other people that had the same drive as me and that wanted to do it in a real way and not just in like a hobby way, which there's nothing wrong with playing music as a hobby. That
absolutely.
Is totally, I don't mean to, I just mean like there is definitely kind of a different mindset. Like some people just want to play music because they dig music and they want to hang out with their friends, and that is awesome. And then sometimes, you know, you want to try to strive for a career.
Yeah, it's like the same as if you wanted to be like a major football player. You can't. You have to focus on different things. You know, same thing.
Exactly. And I met people that had the same drive as me, and then I realized I'm like, oh wow, I'm playing in bands with people now that it's not just a hobby. Like we all really want this, and I think that's kind of when it became more of a like when you surround yourself with people that have like really intense motivation, it motivates you. You know what I mean? So I think that that's kind of when it switched from a well, I don't want to say like a really kind of sad thing. The guy that I played in a band with for a very long time, my freshman year, we were very, very good friends. I lost him to suicide my freshman year of college.
Oh,
and
I'm
we
sorry
had
to hear
written
that, by the way.
Yeah, and it was tough, but it was the biggest lesson I've ever learned in my life. And he was the best songwriter I knew, the best musician I knew, the kindest person I knew. And when I lost him, we had all of this material and all of this, and I just was like, I don't want to stop doing it. I don't want this like person that I had that was like guiding me through. Like I was definitely the backseat of this like music relationship that we had, and I kind of felt like I have to step up to the plate to pursue this now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so losing him really, I think that kind of made me think that I wasn't going to let that like drive and that passion die along with him. And so I was like, he inspired me every day to want to be a musician. And so I think that was really like the turning point. And then I met all of the guys that I play in the band with now, and it was like just the perfect, equation for me. And I'm very grateful of that.
I'm actually kind of, and you know what? Look, I'm known for just diving in as deep as I possibly can. And so forgive me if there's ever any moments where you feel like, you know what, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh no, I'm just like an upbeat, I just didn't want to like take the podcast real dark.
No, you know what? We're going to talk about and see where this conversation goes. And that's why I love podcasting, because it just goes wherever. And I want to circle back to a lot of these things, but one of the things that I'm very passionate about, amongst just, podcasting and doing music, one of my personal passions is I try to explore what motivates people, right? And because my goal is to at least help someone that's listening to this particular interview, I want to motivate you to get up and, do your thing and do it your way. And so you've said a couple of things in the past conversation that I'm resonating with and that I want to explore a little bit. You mentioned how you basically surrounded yourself with people that were motivated, and that in turn made you motivated. But what I'm curious about is you also said that you're from the South, which, football, sports, it's part of the culture, right? I mean, I get it. I've been there, and I love that. I love that environment, how just people just are competitive and want sports. Had you not chosen to be, or I'm not even sure if that saying chosen is the right word, but I guess what I'm curious about is, did you choose yourself to put yourself in that environment where people were passionate about music, or did that sort of happen? And I'm curious about that because there's many people that I've talked to that are from, your same general area that sort of get pushed into doing sports rather than arts because, obviously it's the culture. It's what people want your kids to do, and it's totally fine. But I'm curious how you essentially, either by luck or by your choice, you found yourself around people that were doing this and you wanted to do it too, and here you are. So I'm curious, like, was it your choice? Did you seek that out, or did it just sort of happen?
The DIY scene is alive.
It is alive and well.
Right. No, yeah, that's actually a really cool and kind of difficult question, actually. Like and
obviously it's speculative because obviously maybe you don't even remember, but I guess I'm curious.
Well, no,
I'm
having to think about it really. I mean, like I said, I played in, it's really funny. Like I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina, which is the beach. I worked at a surf shop in high school. Like everybody is, fishing.
So you're a surfer then, huh?
Surf. Yeah, more so than like, truck and dip, if that makes sense. Like
we have to go surfing one day, man.
Palm trees and surfboards. Like, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that's like not like the town in South Carolina where I grew up was on the beach, so it was very, very centered around like Jimmy Buffett type culture, if that makes sense, which is cool. So a lot of like ska bands around us and a lot of country music. So there was always like people that I could find that I would try to brainwash into playing pop punk with me, if that makes sense. Yeah. But when I got into college, the really cool thing about being in a college town is, I go to a huge university. There's like 35 or 40,000 people here.
That's huge.
At the University of South Carolina. Yeah. So I realized very quickly that there was a show happening every single night, whether it was a DJ or an emo band or a, ska band or anything. Like every single thing in the book, there was a show here. And I was lucky for that. And I think that, it's hard. If you grow up in a town where there isn't a scene like that, it can be very difficult. But I realized then, I thought when we were playing small house shows and playing in people's backyards and playing in bars and stuff like that, I was like, this is awesome. There's so many places to play and so many, But then I realized that when we got a little bit more of, people into our music and more people coming out to shows and being excited with like what we were doing and the message we were spreading and whatnot, we realized very quickly that even in Colombia, there wasn't a lot of places to play at that level, if that kind of makes sense. So then we started having to go to North Carolina, and we played more shows in North Carolina and in Georgia than we even do in South Carolina, really. We have a more, like, I guess, developed fan base in like Charlotte and Raleigh and areas like that, which is really cool because it's not that far away. So don't get discouraged. If you have to jump in a van and drive an hour to the nearest city where there is a music scene, if you're passionate, do it, because they'll remember you and they'll want you to come back. And you'll make friends, and then you can invite them back to your city and then grow your city, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a really smart way to do it. I mean, I think that's probably one of the oldest like methods in the book, but probably one of the most effective ones, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's how you make a fan base. And it's the same across the board, no matter where you're at. And I think you bring up that good point that if you're really passionate about it, which is, I think it's important, doesn't matter what it is that you're doing, if you're passionate about it, you got to make the choices that are going to get you there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think, I mean, if you're in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, get on Vamper. You know, that's an app where you can, like, this is not a plug, but I'm just saying, like, it's an app where
we'll make it a plug. Vamper, download now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Vamper is like Tinder, but for musicians. You know, and like you can even, I learned so much from this kid that was living in Charleston when I was in like 9th grade, that I would Skype and he would like show me guitar riffs and show me stuff just because we were like met on the internet. You know, I mean, even if there aren't people in your area, you can connect with other people, send them demos, send them back and forth, record it on your phone. You know what I mean? Like there are ways that, because I mean now, especially with the internet, like, you know, I love the tangibleness and the realness of being in a room with people, but sometimes not everybody has that sort of opportunity at where they live. So if that's the case, then, you know, with social media and the internet, you can get online and find other people that are interested in what you're doing, and you can connect that way. You know, there's so many ways to get out there and to build a community around the things that you love. I really believe that.
Absolutely, man. And you know what? I want to ask you this real quick, just before I move on from this particular topic. And I'm curious to see if you're even interested in responding, but, your friend, right? The one we mentioned earlier, what I'm curious about, and I bring this up because I've also talked about this with plenty other people and everyone deals with it differently. And I'm curious about you specifically, your friend that ended his life a little earlier, right? Not to bring him back up, but it motivated you, right? It motivated you to at least pick up some sort of mantle and do your own thing, or at least continue making music that I think you guys were making together, you were making, or something like that. Why? I guess is the question, because
of course
I've met plenty of people, and again, I've never gone through this, so I can't say that I know what it feels like, but I've at least talked to 10 people that have all dealt with it differently, and more often than not, it's a very sad thing and hard thing to deal with, and more often than not, you kind of sort of step away and not want to deal with it. As you know, obviously I can't blame anyone for wanting to do that because it's painful, but
of course there's lots of different ways to deal with it.
You sort of went the opposite way, and you sort of use it as fuel to kind of jumpstart something, which obviously here you are today. So I'm curious, like, why did that happen, if you even know why or how that happened?
So, well, I think the reason that I brought it up is because, you know, when you're talking to me about motivation, like, and we talked earlier about like just being really honest, it's impossible for me, honestly, to honestly tell my story without mentioning that. I can't, you know, it was such a trivial moment in my entire life. I mean, I was 19 years old and I had never lost anyone. And I mean, I had lost a great grandfather as a child, and that was about it. Like, I had never experienced that sort of loss. And to lose someone that I spent every single day with, you know what I mean? We did a radio show together. We co-hosted, WUSC we have a college radio station here that we co-hosted together. We did a Pop Punk's Not Dead, basically, type show. And we also played in a band together, and we also booked shows together. So I spent pretty much 95% of my time with this kid, Jordan. Jordan was his name. And I think that when I lost him, it was kind of like, it was hard for a while, and I'll say I didn't immediately jump back into the music. Right. I took a little bit of time to kind of, you know, deal with what I had to deal with. But his mother reached out to me and was asking about the music that we had made together, and she wanted to hear more of it because, you know, his family was from Virginia. Yeah. And so the band that we were with, I was playing drums in the band, he was singing, and there was another kid in the band with us. We got together, and we decided that we were going to track the album that we had written together and send it to his family. And we ended up doing that, and it sparked this huge I don't even know what to call it, phenomenon where we sold hundreds and hundreds of this CD to everyone he had ever come in contact with, basically. And it was just the most incredible thing. We called it Cheers for Jordan. Cheers. I've got it tattooed on my ankle in his handwriting. That was what he spent some time abroad, and that's what he used to say instead of goodbye. He would say cheers. And so that's what we named the record. And actually, and that band ended up, we didn't really stay a band after that. We tracked it, and then we were like, okay, now we can lay this to rest. Does that make sense? Like, we did the last thing that we needed to do, and then we all parted ways, and we all started different bands, and, you know, it all influenced us in a different way. But he was my best friend. So when we started Happy, actually on our EP, there's a song called April is for Fools, and a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of people have really the song's very upbeat and they really like it, which is cool. Like when we play it, it's a crowd pleaser. We have people like to jump and dance, and that's so amazing because he was such a bright person. And I could have written a song, I guess, right after I lost him, and it would have been sad and it would have hurt to play. And I waited. I didn't write a song about him for 2 years. And then 2 years later, I wrote April is for Fools, and it's called that because I lost him on April Fool's Day, which was very bizarre. And that made it almost impossible to deal with, really. So, we named the song April is for Fools because it happened on April 1st. And the song is really about just how amazing he was and how the memory is so great. And I'm so glad I waited the time that it took, I guess, to come back to that and revisit that experience and revisit how he had influenced my musical career. And so, I say in the song, like, you'll never hear your favorite band's final album or the story of how we traveled to Virginia and got tattoos for you. Like, it was just cool to write a song that people can dance to because that's the kind of person that he was. And so I think that that'll never stop really influencing the way that I view my relationships and the way that I view my friendships and the way that I view music as a whole. But I do think that, it is important to talk about these things, and it is important to, love the people around you, and you never know what's going on with someone that can be right next to you every day. So just, I'm glad that you asked me about it because I think it's an important topic, I guess, if that makes sense.
It really is. Yeah. It's one of those topics that can be, its own conversation. It's something that isn't talked about enough. And I bring up those questions, not even just with you, but with other people that I talk to because, and it's weird. I don't mean to bring this up in this conversation too, but I've actually just been watching a lot of Mr. Rogers stuff. Okay, I'm not trying to. It's weird. It's completely off topic, but like one of the things.
No, we had in our band bio for a long time that we were Mr. Rogers' favorite band as a joke. So that's hilarious.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was just like, I just went to one of the screenings for that new Mr. Rogers documentary, and I think it applies to this. One of the reasons what made him so successful, and obviously I feel like every one of us knows who Mr. Rogers is.
Oh, of course.
He was very big on like talking about emotion, and one of the things I find a lot in myself and other musicians that I talk to, no matter how successful you get, no matter whether you play Coachella or whatever other big festival or whatever milestone you reach to, the big difference I see in people that are successful and happy and content are the ones that are willing to sort of be brave and deal with their emotions in a positive way. Because we're all going to deal with emotions, right? We're all going to deal with crappy shit or good things that happen. But I like how you made a point to say that you were glad that you waited to write this song, or at least deal with your friends, with this misfortunate event that happened in your life in a positive way, because it's so easy to just kind of like turn it around and make it a sad thing, which might be the best move. Who knows? But my point is, I think you dealt with it with a very good way. And the reason why I brought Mr. Rogers into the mix is, well, I know it seems kind of random, but he was very big on like dealing with your emotions, and understanding that as a creative person, because he very much appealed to a lot of creative people, to understand that in our society, in the music industry, or just in general, it's so easy. And it's almost encouraged by society to just like act a certain way, feel a certain way. This is the way you have to be. But the message that I heard in this documentary that really spoke to me as a creative person, I want to do my part, at least to spread it to anyone who's creative or whatever, is to understand that your emotions are your own. They're like your own emotions, and you got to learn to deal with them whichever way is the best possible way for you, whether it's sad or happy. And you made an album, and then you waited and you made something really happy that and I can already tell that it makes you a better person and makes you content and makes you accept what happened and be able to move on. And obviously it's not anything that won't ever cease to be painful. You know what I mean? But it's like you're dealing with it, and that's the good part, if that makes sense. I kind of sort of rambled there for a second, but I think it's important to talk about this, you know?
I agree with everything you're saying. And, I'll go back to us joking, like when we were, a little baby band, we had our bio literally just said Mr. Rogers' favorite band as a joke. But it was because, like, when we named the band Happy, in the beginning, people were like, oh, that's funny. That's kind of corny. Like, are y'all going to, like, tell everybody to be happy all the time? And, like, our whole message is to find your, like, own self-defined happiness. Yeah. Because you cannot compare happiness to what makes the person standing next to you happy, because you'll drive yourself crazy. I mean, that's not how it works. Like, just like what you were saying is that, you only have your own emotions, and you have to control them based on how you feel and how you're dealing with the world, and how, find the things that make you happy, and set your own goals and set your own thresholds and your own, levels of success, because everything is different for every single person, and everyone has different experiences and different, things that happen to them that have different circumstances. And you can't strive for happiness if you're looking for it as what someone else defines happiness, if that makes sense. So our whole message is to find your own happiness and what makes you happy, and do the things that make you happy. Basically, I'm talking in circles, but I hope that made sense. Like,
makes perfect sense.
It's different. It's different than just being happy. Like, when people say be happy, it's like, okay, great, thanks. Like,
yeah,
but be your happy.
Exactly.
I guess. Like, yeah.
Don't be someone else's happy. Just figure out, I mean, if writing a sad song is what makes you happy, fucking do it. Or if writing a happy song, do that. That's the greatest pursuit of life. And again, what I said earlier is what I've seen in truly happy, content people, whether they're super successful or not, is understanding that you're responsible 100% for what makes you happy, and no one has to know why. No one has to care why or understand why. If it floats your boat, that's all that matters. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And I mean, especially like with our band, because like we're so different. I mean, Jack, our lead guitarist, coolest guy I've ever met. He is a Iron Maiden listening to, like, oh my gosh, he is so into like old rock, and like it's so funny. And then Caleb, he really loves bands like Turnover and these like really, pleasant sounding music. And then Sean's favorite band is Blink-182. And so it's just so funny that, we all come together, and it's like, we don't try to like shun those influences at all. It's like, you know what, Jack, if you want to rip an Iron Maiden solo over this like 60s waltz bop we have going on, like if it works, because I mean, I don't know, the same thing, we can, wrap this back into music and what makes you happy in music is, it's like, I think that too many smaller bands look at bands that are successful and think like, how can I, and I'm not saying all bands just do this, I just know some that do, and think like, how can I mimic that perfectly and it'll work, and I think that is not the right way to do it. You should take your own creations and of course take influences, and you can take all different influences. If you've got 10 bands that you like, take the sounds from all of them and meld them together in your own creation, because the minute that you start like nipping and butting and trying to pick at the thing, like you should like write with an open mind, I guess. And that's way easier said than done. But with the four of us, it just works well, because I don't think that we try to stick within a certain genre bound. At the end of it, it sounds like punk, which is cool, because that's what we're going for. But I think that if you really like break down, we have a lot of new music coming out very soon, which is exciting. So a lot of people will be able to hear a lot more of our sound soon, which I'm very excited about. But we're still a baby band. We've released 2 songs with Rude Records, which is cool, because I think that even just the difference between the two of them are, Don't Overdose and Drive is like a pretty slow, chill bop. And then Winona Ryder, we wrote, geez, I couldn't even say that. Winona Ryder, love her. She can't even say my own song name. It's a little bit heavier. We wrote it in like a minor chord, and like it's just, I don't know. We experimented with a lot of different sounds, and then when we looked back at it, we were really proud that we didn't try to do a certain thing, I guess.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I'm excited that your new music's coming out. And I'm glad that you brought up your band a little bit more, because I was curious to ask you a little bit earlier. You mentioned how when you first got your guys together and you were, you were working on some music or something that it sort of clicked, right? Like it clicked together. And this is oddly enough a question I get a lot from either fans or other people that I talk to is, you know, a lot of people are wondering, like, how do you know when that quote unquote click happens? And I obviously, from my experience, I know it happens differently for everyone. Yeah. But I'm curious, like, how you felt and how you knew that these guys were with you, were going to do something cool together.
I think that, well, I'll tell you the real truth. They came in and they were all way more talented than I was. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, no, but I mean, I truly believe, like, I do write the songs as far as like when they are in their infancy. So I'm the lyricist, I guess, if that's the best way to put it. You know, I'll write the song on an acoustic guitar and then I bring it to the band, and then it usually transforms so much before the end product, you know, because like I said, you know, they have such different influences, but when it comes together, just the uniqueness, or in my opinion, I can't speak if other people don't think we're unique, obviously, but you know, when I was working with these guys, I just, you know, I've been in probably 7 or 8 other bands when I met them, you know, and I think that when we all got together, we all just were so excited, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, there was just that, like, we couldn't wait to get back together to work on the song that we had demoed the day before, or we couldn't, you know, I'm getting calls from Jack in the middle of the night being like, I have this riff idea. And Caleb's like, can I come over in between work and class so that we can work on, you know, it was just so, everyone was so, there was just so much energy and so much it was very refreshing, I guess, to kind of be in a project for the first time where I felt like we were all on the same page. And I think that as far as like making that work is honestly communication. I think that, you know, we joke and say I love you when we get off the phone, and that's why we're still a band. But it's true. Like we literally
that's the one
say,
key
like,
everyone doesn't do. You don't say like, I love you.
I don't know. We really care about each other's personal lives and each other's families and each other's, you know, outside passions and everything. And I think that, I don't know, we're very lucky to we're extremely open-minded and all have the same, you know, values and morals and goals and aspirations. And I think that that's what makes the message of Happy just be so genuine, I guess, is because that I'm lucky and blessed, I guess, to work with 3 other guys that have the same mentality on the music and the world that I do. And I think that we all just, I don't know, we're perfect together. We love each other. We're going to get married in a 4-way marriage. Like, they're so talented, man. They're so talented. And like, I just bring them these little silly ideas and then they make it like blossom into a beautiful flower. Like, that's really like the truth.
That's hilarious, man. I love it. And you know what? I love when that happens, because that's when you know something truly magical happens. And plenty of people say it in different ways, but I think you described it very well, is that when you meet other people that are as excited about the same project that you are either doing or excited about, I think it's always usually a good sign, because they're also willing to work on it with you, because there's a big difference between being like, oh, I'm so happy for you, I'm excited, do it, and then you end up doing all the work yourself. But when they're willing to contribute to the overall picture, that's exactly. I feel like when you have something special going on.
Definitely.
And you know what? Like, I absolutely love the fact that you described that fact about the band and how everything is super tight knit, because it is kind of rare to like find something like that. Do you feel like, well, I guess what I'm curious about is in the music scene that you're part of right now, you're still in the South. Are all the bands or all the people that you find yourself playing with, right, whether it's with a show or something else, do you feel like other bands have that same sort of experience amongst themselves? Do you feel like everyone else that you're meeting along the way, they're all sort of tight-knit and have the same experience that you guys are experiencing right now? Or have you met or worked with other bands that are not necessarily as tight-knit as you guys seem to be, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like yes and no, you know what I mean? Like, I've come across lots of bands where I look at them and you can tell on stage that their chemistry is just so wonderful and you never hear any sort of like, you know, issues. But then, you know, sometimes, and here's the thing about it is that when you're working on a project, and sometimes there are reasons to like shift members or whatever, you know, I mean, like there's never like, there is no right or wrong way, I think, to operate as like a band as far as like what works best for you. I just know that when I was I'll tell you the truth, when I was in middle school, I thought All Time Low was like the greatest band ever. And I watched this, I remember watching their documentary. They have this documentary, it's called Straight to DVD. And these guys just talked for like an hour about how close they were with each other. And here, they just went on like a 10 or 15 year anniversary tour, and they're still the same four guys. And I just thought, awesome. Like, that's what I want. You know what I mean? Like, regardless, their music is cool and it's fun. I'm not trying to say they're the best band in the world or anything. I love All Time Low. I think that they're good guys. But as far as like the message that they were spreading about how they made their band work, it really resonated with me. And I was like, I want to find a band where we feel like brothers forever. Yeah. And that's hard. And I know that we will work as hard as we can to maintain that relationship. And it's worked for us for 2 years, and we've never had, the thing about it is we fight, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to say that we have this like beautiful rainbow relationship, but the thing that makes it work so well with us is that when we do have a disagreement or whatever, we get together and we have what we call a band meeting, and we all sit around in Jack's basement and we literally just hash it out. And it always has worked for us. You know what I mean? Like, we'll cry and yell at each other, but here we are still, because that's just like the real communication of it helps us like move on and get back to a place where we feel like we're all on the same page again. And that's just really important, I think, for any relationship that you have with anyone or anything, is just communication is so key. For real. Like
100%.
If you want to fix a problem, you have to know what the problem is. So I think, my neighbors are there chit-chatting outside. My girlfriend and I were planting flowers earlier, and we had some leftover seeds, and we have some kids that live next door, and so we gave them the seeds, and they've been planting them. They're having a great time outside doing that right now.
That's amazing, man. See, and I love that. I can tell your personality that you're just this very big giving person, and I love that. I love that because I feel like it reflects with your music, and I'm excited for that stuff to come out very soon. And I'm curious, like, what is your goal with your band? And obviously, like, that's a very broad question, because I feel like a lot of people have very similar answers, or maybe even different answers. But I'm curious, like, obviously you started this band, it works, you're sort of creating that brotherhood that you've been looking for a long time. Where do you see yourself, or where are you planning on going with this band, and how far do you want to take it, if that makes sense?
Of course. So, let's see. I'm trying to think about what I can and cannot say.
Say it all, man. Come on.
Right, yeah, no, spill all the beans and get in so much trouble. No. So we we signed with Rude Records over winter break, and that was amazing because like I said, so last summer we went to Nashville. And we worked with Will Pugh from Cartel, who was a band that really, like, I really, really loved all that early 2000s pop punk. That is my shit right there. Like, for real. Yeah. And so when we were looking for people to work with, he's in the South, so it wasn't that far. Like, I've gone and I recorded with there's a band called You, Me, and Everyone We Know, and I loved them when I was younger too. I went to Philadelphia and recorded with them in a different band once before. But with this band, we wanted to stay in the South and find someone like near but also dear, if that makes sense. Like, and Will we sent him some demos. Actually, we sent him April's for Fools, the song I was talking about earlier. That's on an EP that we put out independently. But I sent him the track, and he called us and invited us to the studio, and we went there and we tracked a lot of songs, and then that we kind of started the relationship that we have with Rude after that. Signed with them in the fall or in the winter. And so as far as like, honestly, I have been graduating school. Like, I'm about to, like I said, I walk across the stage and get that diploma on Saturday, and then all of the amazing things will happen. I guess that the
hard work begins afterwards.
Just playing we have lots of plans afterwards. That's a good way to say it. We released Don't Overdose and Drive in February. We put out a music video for that. You should check that out. We basically rented out all of Chuck E. Cheese's and like had a party. They treated us like kings. It was the coolest thing.
That's awesome.
We had balloons and everything, but the message of that song is like, you can have fun in a paper bag as long as you're with people that you care about and that you have a good time with. And then we released Winona Ryder, our next single, just a little while ago. We just put out a music video. I think it was just last week. And so we kind of spoofed horror movies with that one, like famous slasher
films. I saw that. It was pretty cool.
we had a blast doing that. You know, we're from the South and we rented a cabin and went in the snow, and it was quite an experience. I had never been in snow before, and I was like, this is wild. But but as far as plans, we've got, like I said, we recorded a lot of songs. We've got a lot of songs coming out in the rest of this year. As far as like summer and in the fall, we'll be playing a lot of shows. We've got the Weekend Classic. They're a great band. They're on Rude Records. We're playing a show with them at New Brooklyn Tavern here in Columbia, South Carolina on June 12th. So yeah, we're really excited about that. We it's always really cool when like you can cross paths with your buddies on your label, because we haven't met those guys yet in person. We've had a lot of, chit chat back and forth, but to get to hang with, they're going to crash at my house. So I'm excited to, just get to know them on a personal level. Their music is incredible, and it's cool to do that. So yeah, look out for more shows and more music videos, because the rest of the year it's about to we've been kind of been in first gear, and we're going to go into fifth gear. So just stick around, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. No, that's the best part of when you're finally getting your band up and running, and you get some good people behind on your team. And once you can hit that fifth gear and go full in, it's the best feeling in the world. Absolutely.
Exactly. Sitting on secrets is so hard. To be honest, no, but we're working with Catalyst PR or publicity in the U.S. They're amazing. Jen, our publicist, she's incredible. One of the kindest women I've ever met. She worked with Will on their 10-year anniversary for Chroma, which is really, really awesome. So that was kind of full circle for us. And then we work with Devil PR in the UK. They're incredible. I mean, they work with bands like All Time Low and Neck Deep and stuff like that. So we're really blessed to have a really cool team surrounding us as well. So we've got our gears are turning, and we're about to give you a very good bit of product, I guess.
I love it, man. And you know what? I think it's very well deserved, because based off of this conversation, I really love your personality. And I say this to everyone. And I say this I've been saying this a lot lately, because I've been getting reached out by more people, and just people have been asking me questions about the podcast and stuff. And I have to be honest, I don't bring on anyone on the show that I don't necessarily want to bring on. I want to make sure that whoever I bring on the show has a good message. I mean, obviously I can't decide what kind of message they're going to give beforehand, because we're just talking. But the idea is, I love the fact that you can come on the show and just give this positive vibe and just show everyone what they can do if they really want to do something, and understand who they are and what their emotions are, and all of that stuff that we talked about, package it together and just go after something that they enjoy. I think it's perfect. And I think you're kind of showing what the early stage looks like, but you're also showing what it's going to look like once you actually get that fifth gear going. And I'm actually excited to see what happens when you finally get that fifth gear going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, I was just going to say about the positive vibes. Yeah, man. I mean, I would love to believe that every person has something positive to offer. You just have to find what it is. And
exactly.
With certain people, it's right on top, and it's really easy to figure out what their positive offering is. And then other people, you have to do a lot of digging, but that doesn't mean that they might not have the most positive thing to offer. So I think that, as far as if you work in music, or if you work in sports, or if you work in an office, whatever people that you're around, I think that you can find the positive thing that they have to give, and then you should in return give them your positive giving back.
Perfect, man. Yes. I love that. Absolutely love that, man.
I love all the questions that you've asked. I feel really I don't know, this has been a really wonderful podcast. You have an awesome aura. I sound like a hippie, our chakras are aligned. But no, it's really cool to be in an open conversation with somebody that really grasps and understands, appreciates the things that I'm saying. And I feel like you really get a lot of this stuff, and you have a lot of insight as well, and it's really, really cool to chat with you. So, definitely.
Thank you, Tate. I mean, I appreciate you saying those kind of words. Look, the reality is, I don't do anything, to be honest. I talk to you. You're the one who's talking. I bring on the greatest guests that I can find on this show, and so you guys are the ones that should honestly be being thanked for. But the reality is, my view of the world is everything's positive for the most part. Like you were just saying, we're all capable of doing what we want to do. The key is finding what it is that we want to do, what drives us, and going back to what you said at the very beginning, maybe like what if you were doing tracking but you realized that you were bored of like recording, or what if you were playing in a band but you realized that your passion was really like producing. The reality is once you find that thing that drives you and you're able to put your energy and you surround yourself with people that are great and that push you to do that don't necessarily put you down, but like help you actually do it, that's when magical things happen. And that's when you get positive vibes like you are doing. And I want to share that with as many people as I possibly can to show like, look, this is how Tate does it. Tate is doing his thing. He has his challenges. He has his ups and downs, but he's doing the right steps. And that's why his gears are moving, if that makes sense. And so,
well, exactly.
That's what you're all about, man. And I love that.
Well, thank you for, I guess, like, when we talked a little bit before this, and I really appreciated everything you said and like your goals and everything, and bringing people on like this. There are tons of people that have different views than I do, and I'm sure that they have like amazing things to say that I don't even could fathom. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that it's really cool that you bring a variety onto the show of different people that can give really different messages. So that's really cool.
Exactly, man. Well, you know what? I think...
So go out there, and if you're listening to this, listen to all the other podcasts.
I would appreciate that, man. I would appreciate that. So, obviously, we've talked about a lot of really cool things, and you've already did a great job explaining your thought process and what you want to do with your career. But for someone... if there's someone listening out there that, wants to take the next step, that either they're in a band, they want to be in a band that's tight-knit like yours, or they want to start writing music or performing more, whatever it may be, after listening to you, they want to start taking some steps towards their career. What would your advice be for someone to be doing like right now or today or tomorrow, but something relatively soon that they could be focusing on to continue pushing their gears or pushing their career forward?
Of course. My mother gave me a really great piece of advice when I was very young, and she said that you can't try to help and motivate other people, or I guess until you've finished helping and motivating yourself. And I think that the very first piece of any sort of project or idea or career or anything that you're going after is to make sure that you've finished working on yourself first. Like make sure that you're in a good headspace for it. Because here's the thing, if you're not in a good headspace, or you're not in a place where you have the time or whatever, it can be really discouraging and make you feel like you're not doing enough or you're not working hard enough. But that can be because you have other circumstances going on, and that's fine. Like here's the thing, you have to get yourself to a place where you have the time and the abilities to work on those things, and that's when you'll see it flourish, because you don't have these other things on your mind. So make sure that you're getting enough sleep and you're getting enough water, you know what I mean? And like make sure that you're doing the necessary things to take care of yourself, because then you'll have the time and the capacity you'll be amazed with what you can do when you're feeling at your best, if that makes sense. Like,
hell yeah.
Make sure that, and then you'll be able to find other people that can also do that same thing. And if your passion is there, don't compare your success to someone else's success. I've said that a couple of times, but I think important. That just like it is important, and I think that that's like really, I guess, the message that I would want to resonate with people that are trying to set your own goals and set your own, and make sure they're reasonable. Set small goals first, and then big goals later. Have your, this is my goal for today, and this is my goal for the month, and this is my goal for when I'm 80. And like make your goals in between. If you can start doing the things that you want to do in your day-to-day life, maybe it's like, I need to sit down every day. I'm going to play guitar for an hour every day. And then you'll realize how much better that you are all of a sudden. And then it's like, well, my next goal is by the end of this month, I'm going to try to get a gig, either maybe at a coffee shop or maybe at a birthday party. It doesn't matter. Just getting in front of a crowd. You know what I mean? Like there
Absolutely.
Are little steps. You do not have to be selling out the arena in your town to feel like you are accomplishing something.
Exactly.
You can get a message out there. You could play to a coffee shop to 3 people, and someone might freak out and buy a t-shirt and buy a CD and come to every single show that you play for the next 3 years. You know what I mean? So like baby steps are so important, and appreciate the time that you have while things still are small. Appreciate the relationships and enjoy the coffee shop with the 3 people in it, because maybe one day that's going to be gone, Hopefully, maybe you'll be playing in an arena, and when you're playing in an arena, you might think, hey, man, it was really cool when I was playing into a coffee shop to those 3 kids. So just take every single day and appreciate it for what it is, and figure out how you're going to take the next step towards your goals the next day. That's my bit of advice.
To basically bounce off of what you're saying. I have had the pleasure to interview a lot of really good people and famous people and be around this industry that I absolutely love. And I cannot tell everyone how much I agree with what Tate is saying. Is I have met not too many people, but I have definitely met some people that have it all, quote unquote. And I know you guys have probably heard this before, and it sounds cheesy, but it's cheesy because it's true. I have met plenty of people that have it, quote unquote, all, have played the arenas, have the money, have the cars, and are just miserable as fuck. And I obviously, and it's hard. I get it. When you're starting out and you have that drive, it's hard to really see, well, how could you be miserable? How could you like not be happy with that? Well, it's possible. And the reality is because you do have to figure out what drives you, what makes you happy before you can actually go after, the big thing, the big fish. Because
exactly.
What if playing the arenas isn't your thing? You could be doing the best thing in the fucking world, but you end up being miserable. That's why there's so many like people out there that are like lawyers making millions of dollars. But when they look at a musician, they remember, I remember when I played guitar, I would have loved to do that. You know what I mean? Right. Obviously, I'm not saying every lawyer is that way. I'm just simply saying, giving you the example, be you. Go after what makes you, what makes you happy, whether it's the coffee shops, arenas, it doesn't matter. If you go after that one thing that drives you, you'll always be good, no matter what.
Exactly. Hell yeah. Right on. What a good way to like wrap this up. That was positive vibes for everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
That's the name with your band, Happy, and I want to make sure that it's all positive, good vibes for everyone, making sure that someone, at least one person, if one person can at least get up and do something after listening to this, then I know we did our job, man, and that's what I strive for.
Definitely. I appreciate this so much. Thank you so much for having me today.
I hope you're enjoying my Rude Records Marathon. I'm definitely enjoying it. And I urge you to please stick around because I have more interviews, more artists coming from Rude Records over the next couple of weeks. And I'm excited to share their inspirational story with you to hopefully inspire you to continue doing your thing. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, if you enjoyed this conversation, please consider subscribing because I do this every week. I bring on the coolest people on the show to hopefully inspire you to continue doing your thing. So definitely stick around because I've got lots of great content coming your way.